everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make individual pineapple upside down cakes. I've had a couple of requests for a pineapple upside down cake, which is a sponge cake that has pineapple on top with glacé cherries in the middle of each pineapple ring. And this was a very popular dessert when I was a child, served with custard, and I think it is a dessert as opposed to a cake really, because you had it after your dinner with custard, as I said. So I start off by preheating my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I have greased and floured a jumbo muffin tin. And I'm going to make 6, I think. If I have batter left over, I may make another one. If you're going to do a large one in a 8-inch cake tin, you'll probably use 7 rings as opposed to 6, but the batter will still be the same. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for this I have pineapple rings out of a can, and I've drained the juice off those, and I'm going to use 6 of those. I have 133 grams, which is 2/3 of a cup, packed tightly, of light brown sugar, and 77 grams, 5½ tablespoons of melted butter, as well as glacé cherries to go in the middle of each of the rings. So those 4 ingredients will go into the pan before we make our batter. And for the cake batter, I have 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA. I have 140 grams, which is 3/4 of a cup minus 2 teaspoons of caster sugar. I have 140 grams, which is 1 cup minus 1 tablespoon of plain flour, and that's based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup. I have 140 grams, 10 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter. I have 12 grams, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 5 millilitres, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 55 millilitres, 1/4 of a cup minus 1 teaspoon of the syrup that came out of the pineapple can. So that's all the ingredients, and the first thing I'm going to do is to melt my brown sugar and my butter for what will eventually go on top in a saucepan, and so I'll put those into a saucepan. And I'm just going to put those on the heat and stir them as the sugar dissolves into the butter. And I don't think you need to watch me do that. I'll show it to you when it's done. So, as you can see, my sugar and butter is melted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply spoon some of that into the bottom of each of the cups. And with that in the cups, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pineapple slice in. and press it down. Like that. And these are just slightly larger than the bottom, so they'll be concave. I think that's the right word. And then I'm going to take a glacé cherry and I'm going to put it into the hole. Now you could use half a glacé cherry, but I'm going to use a whole one. And with the cherries in, I'm simply going to put that pan to one side for the time being and just rinse my hands. And we'll go on to make the cake batter. So for that I'm going to put my butter and sugar into a bowl, and I'm going to use my hand mixer to cream them together. You could do it by hand, but I find it easier with the hand mixer. So that's good enough like that, and I'm just going to scrape the bowl, and then I'm going to add my eggs in one at a time and whisk those until they're combined. And I'm going to add in my vanilla extract and the syrup from the can of pineapple rings. Now, if you want to use fresh pineapple and cut that into rings, you won't have the syrup, but you could use the equivalent in milk, basically. So that's the juice or the syrup mixed in as well, and it looks as though it's curdled a little bit, but it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It's perfectly fine. So I'm just going to set that to one side a moment, because what I want to do is I want to sift my flour and baking powder into a bowl, and then I'm going to sift it again onto the top of that wet mixture, and that's just to make sure that I get the baking powder fully incorporated into the flour, because many recipes for upside down cake use self-raising flour, and I'm using plain flour, so I need to make sure that my baking powder is fully mixed through. So that's good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sift that in as well to the wet mixture. And then I'm simply going to fold that in until everything is incorporated. And with that mixed in, I'm going to spoon that into the muffin pan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to ensure that I get the same amount in each cup. So I'll weigh it as I go. And I'm going to level those off. Just like that. And then I'm going to put those into the oven and I'm going to bake them for about 25 minutes. And I'll test with a skewer, not right down to the bottom because that will be wet with the pineapple and such like. But I'll test that the cake is cooked, and if it is, I'll take them out of the oven. I'm going to leave them for 2 minutes and then I'm going to turn them over onto a baking tray while the caramel is still hot so that it doesn't stick in the pan. And then once they're turned out, I'll come back and show you the result. I baked the individual pineapple upside down cakes for 25 minutes. And they rose nicely and filled the pan. So I took them out of the oven and I left them for 2 minutes, and then I put a baking tray on top, turned them upside down and lifted the muffin tin off, and it came off perfectly easily. So this is what they look like. I put 2 on a plate here so you can see them. I've got the other 3 there and another one which I've just cut a piece off so I can have a taste. So they bake quite nicely. The pineapple is caramelised, and some of the caramel will have soaked into the cake as well. So I'll have a taste of the piece that I've cut off. It's got that lovely vanilla sponge, nice and soft. It's got a caramel flavour as well, and then the pineapple. Now this is still warm, so the pineapple was hot on mine. Very, very nice. I just nicked the cherry as well because I do like glacé cherries, but we know what they taste like. Yep, very good. That was hot as well. So this is actually a very simple recipe if you have a large muffin pan. If you don't, but you do have an 8-inch round cake tin, as I said, you can do the same, but put the sort of 6 rings of pineapple around the rim and another ring inside, and put cherries on all of those, and then put the batter on the top. Then you would probably bake those, I think, more like 40 minutes, something like that, 35 to 40 minutes, and test it with a skewer. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed the recipe, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.